Hi, let's look at French defense this time. I'd like to look at knight c3 first. Here most common is bishop b4, the win-over variation. Here white can play e5, which is the most common. So let's look at that a little bit. c5 immediately is played, a3 enabling this capture, and then knight e7. Here white can play queen g4 with an active play, or knight f3, which is more quiet. Let's look at queen g4 first. Castle, for example, bishop d3, knight c6, queen h5, and c4. And this has very good chances for white, even though he sacrificed the bishop. So watch out for this. It can also end up in a draw, but black winning is highly unlikely here. So let's go back. Notice that if the bishop retreats to e2, then black has better chances, because white is somewhat passive. So perhaps castling wasn't so good. Let's look at queen c7. Now this is called the poison pawn variation in the French defense. And white can take even another pawn. And here white's center is in danger. Sorry about the bottom of the screen. I don't know what they did to this site, but it's difficult to see. Knight a5, h4, knight f5, rook h3, and the white king often has to stay in the center in this poison pawn variation. So, but if he can attack later in the center and consolidate, then he wins. There was an interesting tile game that King's Crusher covered the other day on his live stream about this variation. Knight c4, rook b4, and it's quite sharp. White has good chances, but black also has a lot of compensation for the pawn, so it's quite double-edged. Okay, then let's look a little bit about knight f3 here. Here black has many choices: knight c6, bishop d7, queen a5, and it seems to be more quiet, more positional. Perhaps there's not a one correct line that we should look at. So perhaps we should go to another variation then. Perhaps I'd like to look at the exchange variation a little bit. This can become really drawish. There's a game between Capablanca and Maroczki which is very symmetrical. I mean, black plays bishop d6, then knight f3, knight f6, castle, castle, bishop g5, bishop g4, knight d2, knight d7. It's just silly, really, and even bishop h4, bishop h5, and then taking the bishop to g3, g6, and then exchanging it with the opponent's bishop and capturing with the h-pawn. That game was just uh, hilarious. If there's humor in chess, it's definitely in that game. So, but white can't really force a draw. So if he tries to do that too hard, then he might end up losing. If white wants to fight for a win, then he should play something like c4, challenge the d5 pawn. But otherwise, if he plays c3, then he can't really fight for the win. But white can also end up losing pretty easily. For example, if something like this, where perhaps, I don't know if there's a slight difference here, but well, this is actually a pretty boring variation also, so it should be easy for white to maintain a draw. And there's also the Tarrasch variation, knight d2, which is ready to meet bishop b4 with c3, so that takes out the win-over variation. And also black can answer knight c3 with knight f6, followed by bishop g5, bishop e7, for example, which usually leads to the closed, the advanced variation of Sicilian, where black plays c5 at some point, and white can attack with the pieces or try f4, f5, or even just push the h-pawn, and black has attack on the queen side, just like in the advanced variation of the Caro-Kann. So, but I don't really feel necessary to go over those lines. French defense is more it's more positional opening, where there are not so many forcing lines straight off the opening. So every player can choose their own pet line and then learn all the variations. So that's why I don't feel it necessary to make more videos about the French defense, but But anyway, this was my exploration of this position. Thanks for watching. Bye.